Next up, and wrapping up our morning session, the anchor, if you will, Mr. David Lair from NAB.
Let's see how this works. Sweet. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Nautel, for having me today. I wasn't quite sure when I'd get the hook, so I just wanted to, up front on my presentation here, say a few things about our show. Everybody, welcome to the NAB show. I'm really glad Nautel located this event this year here in Westgate instead of over at Flamingo, and I'm sure many of you agree with me. Yeah, let's give them a round of applause for that. So, at the show, of course, you know, we have a lot of sessions and presentations and things. Some of them are for all attendees, some of them are for people who have registered for conferences. Keep an eye on the main stage in the North Hall. That's where all attendees can go. Tuesday at 10 o'clock should be on everyone's calendar because that's when Bert will get his Engineering Achievement Award, and we're very excited about that. Yeah, let's give Bert another round of applause, absolutely. And we have the Broadcast Engineering Conference, which is in the North Hall, which is very convenient to this room. Well, compared to the Flamingo, I suppose. And then there's the SB Ennis Workshop, which is going to be taking place later this week. This afternoon at 1:30, we have a session on visual radio at scale. So I encourage you to go see that. It's very relevant to what we've been hearing here this morning. We have also this afternoon, DTS will be speaking on the show floor, so that's something that's available to all attendees. And then at 3, of course, Paul mentioned this earlier, he'll be on a panel where Andy, and we have to give Andy another round of applause as well, for being the Radio World Award winner. So this is a picture of our pilot radio testbed that we have back at NAB headquarters in DC. And I'm putting it up here because I want to take this opportunity to thank Nautel for working with us on this. Just at the end of last year, I purchased some new Nautel equipment, which is sitting in a box ready to be installed. And I'm hoping that later this year, this new equipment will allow us to do some testing on HD radio FM advanced modes of operation, which really aren't being explored all that much right now. So we're hoping to change that a little bit at NAB. And I'll also take this opportunity to thank some other vendors who you see here on the screen who have been working with us to build out the radio testbed and really make it a good technology resource for the radio industry. Here's a picture of our good friend John Keene. He was in front of the radio testbed just last month. I'm happy to say, you know, we're using the testbed right now. John is working on an AM booster project, which we're undertaking within the National Radio Systems Committee. So let me get to the main topic here, which is what Joe and Steve and Deborah have been talking about. Metadata really is a big part of it, right? I was here a couple years ago talking about that, and John asked me to do kind of a call to action here at the end of this session. So I have a couple of specific suggestions here to recommend. This is the first one, and I have to admit, when Joe asked this question just a moment ago, and only a few hands went up, I was disappointed. I think that this is a big opportunity for radio broadcasters, and I'm not a broadcaster. I've worked at NAB now for 30 years, but I never worked for a broadcast company. But I'm just trying to imagine why a broadcaster wouldn't be all over this. This is just amazing technology. We owe a lot to Xperi, I think, for spearheading all this great work. Same with Q. So this has just got to be the top suggestion, the top call to action from today's session, which is register DTS AutoStage. You got to do it. Secondly, have a metadata plan. We've talked about how it's not just an afterthought or something we might do if we have time. It's got to be core to what you're doing. And we've got Q. Again, you know, Q has really spearheaded this technology. I do these dashboard audits from time to time where I'll travel somewhere, and if I'm in a rental car, I'll park the car and just start scanning through the band. And nowadays, when I do that, every time I do it, I see metadata advertisements on the dashboard. And I'm sure that the vast majority of those are attributable to Q. So you really need to be thinking about that, how you do your metadata, and be sure to share the assets. You've got digital products, you've got over-the-air products. it's important to make sure that all those efforts for populating them with the metadata are coordinated. So we have some NAB resources, which I would hope that you would also find helpful. We have our digital dash best practices. It has it's a fairly long recommended practice document. It has lots of tips. It's got tips for engineers and programmers, and really a lot of good information. If it's something that you haven't been doing and you'd like to learn more about it and start getting into it, I would say this is a pretty good resource to look at. We have something that's a little higher level, something that we developed with our auto committee at NAB and our radio technology committee, which is just kind of a philosophical statement of how broadcasters view metadata and what's important to broadcasters on using metadata. These are the kinds of talking points that we use if we're talking to automakers, or maybe these are talking points that broadcast engineers need to use with their management. If this is something that's not gaining traction, there's information here which can help people realize, how important this is and how broadcasters are asking the broadcast industry and the auto industry in particular to approach this. There's the National Radio Systems Committee resources as well. We have a number of guidelines. We just yesterday, the NRSC met. Here's a picture of our meeting. I'm happy to say we get good attendance at NRSC meetings at the NAB show. We updated one of our guidelines. It's called the RDS Usage Guideline. And we're currently working on another guideline update, which involves harmonizing metadata across platforms, for example, RDS and HD radio and streaming. So I encourage you to visit the NRSC's webpage. It's all free stuff, as are the guidelines I mentioned that NAB has. My last recommendation is, I think, maybe my most important, and it was reinforced too. I don't know how many of you got to see the Q webcast that was on recently on their latest survey, but I was very encouraged to see that the panelists on Steve's webinar were saying the same thing. It's important to convert to digital radio. And there's a lot of stations that are available to convert. Most stations do not have digital radio right now. And hybrid radio is a fabulous technology and it's evolving, but at this point in time, there's 10 times as many cars have digital radios as they do hybrid radio. So this is something that broadcasters need to be taking advantage of. And I have a little example here about why, one reason why it's so important for broadcasters to support digital radio is because the automakers know how many broadcasters use digital radio. And thankfully, we have just about every automaker is also using digital radio, but there's one major exception, and it's General Motors. And I wrote a blog, an NAB blog, earlier this year about a survey I did of a couple of General Motors car radios. They don't have HD radio. If you look in the picture here, you can see the list of frequencies there. That's the station list for FM radio on these GM cars. And it's sad. I mean, especially if you were to compare it to the kind of station list you get in a car with DTS AutoStage, which is just phenomenal. But even, just cars with HD radio in them will have a much nicer presentation of the radio dial than these GM cars do. And here's a now playing screen from this late model GM electric car, actually. It's not bad looking. It's got a nice row of RDS, radio text there, and no graphic. It's just got kind of some generic graphic. But here's the big problem is all the other audio services in these vehicles, they look fantastic. They have everything that you would want. They have album art. They have, good text metadata. You see the little yellow arrow I have on the screen there. Those are two buttons that each of these stations have, which allow listeners to dig deeper. what is it? It's hard to read. It says related and play artist station. So this is the kind of a display. This, you know, this is what radio should look like. It should not look like that. And by contrast, I think, you know, it makes radio, you know, it's just not good. It's not good for us, and we need to step up. It's really up to the broadcasters. You have to start using your metadata. You need to sign up for AutoStage for sure. And again, that's the make it look as good as it sounds. That should really be the goal. And again, that's all I had to say. Thanks again, Nautel, for inviting me.